Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. And happy Saturday. It is still rather dark and dreary out here in Georgia, post hurricane. But all is well. Come on in and say hello. Come on in. Come on in. Matter of fact, let me turn on a little bit more light. Make it a little brighter. A little not gloomy, rainy, windy Saturday morning. But come on in the room. Matter of fact, let me shift over and share, because that's what I do. That's what we do. But I just wanted to invite y'all in here on this Saturday morning. I know that the timing is unorthodox. It is not our norm to go live on a Saturday morning. However, that is what the timing had to look like this week. So we are, this thing loves to hide away everything. Loves to hide away. Here we go. This thing loves hiding away the lives. And I don't know why. I don't know why that is. But, I'm not a fan. So we're going to get into it. But when you come into the room, come on in the room and say hello. Come on in and say hello. Let me share it to the group. And then I will have done my due diligence. And y'all just going to catch the replay. You know what I'm saying? I'm touching buttons. I didn't mean to touch. There we go. Okay. All right. I've done my due diligence. Let's get into it. All right. So welcome. When you come on in the room, come on in and say hello. Come on in and say hi. Invite your friends, tag your people. Come on in the room. So, happy Saturday, y'all. Happy Saturday. It is the last affirmation of September. Can y'all believe it? Like, what is time? It's so fake. What is time? We're going to get into a bit of what time is today, quite frankly, because it don't mean the same thing to us that it means to God. And that's kind of crazy. But like, what is time? Because how is it October this week? How is this week October? It I I don't understand. It's a construct. I don't understand. So we're gonna figure it out. Y'all pray for your girl. Pray for me as I pray for you. Okay. For those of you that are new here, since we are on YouTube, I want to get in the habit of introducing myself. We want to get in the habit. So, for those of y'all that do not know me, my name is Jasmine Harris Packard, and I am a member of the core team of the Living Unfiltered Collective. I'm the events coordinator as well as the development lead for the team. And so we serve our community. We started off unfiltering our photos and we ended up unfiltering our lives. And so the Unfiltered Collective was born from the Unfiltered December Challenge. Hey, Candace, good morning. And it started from a challenge in December where it was like, we're going to stop filtering our photos for the month of December. And we would go live. And initially it wasn't like, oh, our leader, Dr. Gabrielle Gibson, wasn't planning on going live every single day for the month of December. It just kind of worked out that way. And then the challenge grew. And now it has grown into a full-fledged community where we do life together. So that is my little intro. Now you know a little something about me. If you're new here, welcome. Hey, hi. We're glad to have you. Okay. Now just some little announcements. Okay. Just a little announcements. One, As we're talking about October being this coming week, yeah? We're talking about October being this coming week. I want to remind you that registration for the Living Unfiltered retreats is in its final month. October is the last time that you're going to be able to register for this retreat. It is completely exclusive, okay? Like no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And half of the seats are already filled up. Okay. And we only like we only have we only accept like 10 guests for the retreat. Okay. It's meant to be exclusive, it's meant to be intimate, it's meant to be in close proximity and very vulnerable. And so we do not want to draw a crowd. We want to get into, we're not interested in going wide or going wide but shallow. We are looking to go narrow and deep. Okay. So if you have not registered for the Living Unfiltered retreat, baby, what is you doing? But also, let me drop a link right here in the chat for you right now, because why should you go without when the option to not is right there? You know what I'm saying? So let me drop a little link in here. It's gonna be Linktree. It's gonna be our Linktree link. So linktr.ee/Queen G Creative. We just gonna drop that in the chat real quick. Now you can register. Okay, click the link. If you need a payment plan, payment plans are available. And you want to get that registration settled in today. Your registration is not officially counted until your first or full payment is made. Okay, that is the prereq. Okay, and we will be having our retreats in the mountains of Jasper, Georgia. Okay. And it's going to be at an incredible lodge. It is absolutely stunning, absolutely gorgeous. The views are absolutely amazing. All of your needs are going to be taken care of. All you got to do is get yourself here. Okay. And have some clothes on your body. Hmm? Like, even if you were to forget a toiletry, we keep extras just in case. Okay. So pull up on us, because when we say exclusive, we mean exclusive. Handful of people at a time. When we say intimate, we mean intimate. Is going to be very vulnerable and very healing and very safe and very sister like, very sit down for dinner together at a table, very get around and let go of the stuff that has held us hostage for a long time, very much so all of the things. Okay. So you don't want to miss it. We are still, like, I am still in elation over how our last retreat was, and all that I was able to leave behind, and all of the weight that we dropped, and the stuff that we burned in the fire, quite literally. Like, I'm still elated about our last retreat. So don't mess around and miss it. That's all I'm gonna say about the retreat. You have your link in the comments. Now you can go ahead and register. Thank you very much. Also, our 2x2 is still going strong. Invite your people. You don't want to be stuck doing this worthy work by yourself. And we have so much to offer, and so much room, and so much love for all of your people. Hey, TK. TK. Wow. Wake up, brain. I was going to blend your nickname and your real name. So good morning, Takesha. Good morning, TK. 2x2 is still going strong. Invite your people. Because why should we hoard the healing to ourselves? You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying. If you have a prayer request you would like to go through deliverance ministry, you want to get free from any of the things you're looking for breakthrough, fill out the form that we have in our group. If you are looking to volunteer, you want to serve, fill out a volunteer form. That is all the announcements I'm gonna share for y'all with y'all right now. And we're gonna get into this affirmation. Yes? All right. Okay. So this week's affirmation. This week's affirmation. Now, for those of y'all that been up in here, okay, that's been in a group and you saw the affirmation go, and as you can see at the bottom of your screen, this week's affirmation was and is, I believe God for the unbelievable. I believe God for the unbelievable. I believe God for the unbelievable. And I'm going to leave that little ticker going across the bottom of your screen for the rest of this affirmation. For those that come in a little bit later, you're not going to miss it. All right. So I believe God for the unbelievable. Um, this affirmation, I feel like anytime that I have this affirmation, whether it has been facilitated by somebody else, whether I am the one facilitating this affirmation, I feel like I always end up challenged, like consistently end up challenged. Every time I think I'm like, yes, I got it down. I know what it means to believe God for the unbelievable. The Lord, like, why am I like this? Lord, help me. So like catching me like looking like a fool with my pants on the ground. You know what I'm saying? Like, why do I always feel like I'm learning it from scratch every time? You would think it gets regular, but when you do the worthy work, whether it's the actual assignment or or whether the Lord is putting you through your own worthy work without any assignments, specific, assigned assignments or worthy work assignments that we offer in our group. Um, Even if you're not doing those, sometimes, and I've been guilty of this in many different aspects of my life, sometimes it hits afresh because you haven't done the work yet. Sometimes it's a deeper level of doing the work, and so it ends up feeling new all over again because now you're doing it on another level. And when I tell you that sometimes I can't tell the difference, I'm not lying to you. Okay, I'm not lying to you. I'm not making it for fluff. We don't do these affirmations and facilitate these affirmations um because it's for funsies and for fluff and for you to have nice things to say. You know, it's not that. It's not that. It's not giving that. Sometimes um sometimes we're doing the work and it feels like we're not making progress because doing the work looks like digging to another level that you've never been at. And so it can feel like you're not making progress. But one of the things that I learned, in shout out to CNCA coaching, creating and cultivating abundance coaching, with Dr. Gabrielle Gibson, one of the things that we talked about in coaching was how it, just because you're at a new level and you're uncovering a new layer of this work that you're doing doesn't invalidate the work that you've already done. And so it is important for us, myself included, to know the difference between I haven't made any progress in this area and I am learning what progress looks like in this totally new realm of my life that I've never been in before. Because if we're keeping it a buck, the life that we are living, I can't speak for y'all. I've never been a human before, this is my first go around. I have never been a human before. I've never been a person before. I don't know how to do this adulting thing. I'm still figuring it. I'm 34 and we're still figuring it out. And to be quite honest, I wish that our parents would have told us when they were in their 30s, because 30s when I was a kid looked very different than 30s in my life right now. Okay. But I wish that our parents, if they had the tools, some of them did not have the tools. I know that, most folks do the best they can. Most people do the best that they can with the tools that they have available. We do the best that we can with the information that we have available. And what ends up happening is, for the most part, our parents did the best that they could with what they had. They did not have access to the information that we have access to now necessarily, or they had it but only to a more limited degree, or it was just survival. It was just don't die, and don't let the kids die. you know? And so I think that part of me, my flesh side, wants to be like, why didn't they tell us that they didn't really know what they was talking about? They talked in such authoritative language back then all the time that you just thought everybody knew what they was talking about all the time. You just knew if they were an adult, then it felt like there was some security in knowing that what they say, they know what they're talking about, right? Like, why would they say it if they don't know what they're talking about? They're mostly hoping. And if they have faith, then they're believing God for the unbelievable, you know? So anyway, that's my little tangent, my little side quest, if you will. But what I wanted to get into today for this week's affirmation, if you saw the affirmation, you saw the worthy work that we had, it's really an investigation of what you believe, like of what you believe God for, what he has promised you, why the things that you desire seem unattainable, unbelievable, unfathomable, nearly impossible, right? Like, and how like I started off the copy for the devotional for the week with, I don't know about you guys, but do you ever wonder why whenever something seems like it's not in the realm of what is readily visible, all of a sudden your brain starts going into this, like your brain, your flesh, your limited human understanding goes into hyperdrive, and it's like, oh no, here's all the reasons, here's all of the non-researched evidence, here's my fortified opinion of why this cannot happen and why it's impossible, and no, oh no, you're believing for something that's unbelievable. It's unbelievable because blah 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 blah. And here's all of the evidence that I've gathered, though I've not really necessarily gathered evidence. But our brains are pattern seeking, and so if we haven't seen it before, it seems impossible. Moving to Georgia seemed impossible for me. I never lived outside of the two very tiny states, one of which was the actual literal smallest state in the country. For those of y'all that are unfamiliar with Rhode Island, you probably are only, if from one far point of Rhode Island to the farthest point away, you're probably only going to be in the state for maybe 90 minutes if there's some traffic. Like, the whole state is very, very small. Meanwhile, Candace lives in Florida, where you can drive hours and hours and hours and hours and still be in the same state. Okay. And I lived in Massachusetts and I lived in Rhode Island. And all of my I have one older sister who lives in Florida. And then I have the rest of my siblings, like the people I actually grew up with, parents included, all live within 45 minutes of each other in Massachusetts. Tiny little state with a little hook on the end. Sorry, I gotta make sure I do it in reverse. The camera be reversed and everything. The state in the Northeast that has a little hook on the end. Okay. Hey Jabrea, welcome. My family, like my parents and my siblings, the majority of my siblings live in that state. Okay. And so the idea of moving to Georgia, of relocating to Georgia, and especially relocating to Georgia under the circumstances in which I moved. Oh, if you would have told me a year prior that I was going to pick up my entire life, sell all of my belongings, including my car, and drive 18 hours to Georgia to live with only 3 weeks notice and 2 weeks worth of time to do it, I would have been like, first of all, that's unbelievable. Because have you met me? Like, it's not impossible. What we think is impossible is only impossible until it happens. What we think is improbable, what we think is unbelievable, what we think is like there's no way that could happen, it's always that is always the gauge with which we measure things until it happens. The device that you are watching me on right now was an impossibility at one point. where they were like, technology has really advanced so far. I just don't see how that could possibly happen. How could you end up with a screen that connects you, like a screen in your hand that connects you to the rest of the world in seconds? Millions of people have access to this video right now. Billions, rather, really, because YouTube is an international domain. Anybody that has access to YouTube can watch this video. And there's technology that can translate this video into any language in the world. Everything that we have ever thought we wanted, anything that we've thought was that has ever been presented to us, anything that we have ever considered has been an impossibility at one point or another. Now, why they haven't figured out teleportation, I don't know. But I'll wait. Okay? Anyway, just a little tee heat. Okay? Just a little tee heat. So I want to talk to y'all about promises. How did you navigate this week? What is something that you're believing for? Okay? Yes. Let me make sure that I'm you know what I'm saying? I'm engineering my own life. You know what I'm saying? So let's make sure that I feature some comments. Everything that was an impossibility. Absolutely. Hey, Rochelle, welcome. Everything that was an impossibility. There was a time when no matter what it is that we are talking about, that it was absolutely impossible. There was a time when glasses did not exist. So people just went blind. They just went blind. They strained their eyes until their poor vision became worse and worse and worse until they just, couldn't see hardly anything or went completely blind or lived their lives never seeing anything. Yes. Candace said, I'm believing for salvation for my 3 girls and grandson. Amen. And you know what? That is not an impossibility, and it's not unbelievable. It's not unbelievable. And we're believing with you. One of the things that I'm believing for that seems like an impossibility is a whole husband. It's a whole husband. She's very single. Okay. But I'm believing God for that. I'm believing God for him. I'm believing God for the kind of influx that changes my whole life, my whole family's generations. I'm believing God for the transformation of my finances. I am believing God for children of my own who I have no idea what they're gonna look like or who they're gonna come from. I got a daughter who is my daughter by love. I don't have any children that are my own flesh and blood. TK said, this week I was focused on believing God, but I needed prompting from the Lord to declare it out loud and push for it. Girl, love. Literally that. Okay, let me keep reading. And I'm believing God for my business to start producing regular income, my sister's breakthrough, and to come up higher in gifts and activation in the Lord. Yes. Yes. Oh my God. My God. Girl, we are believing with you. In the name of Jesus, we're expecting to see it. Candace said, I am believing God for a godly marriage in this lifetime. Don't laugh till you're crying. I'm telling you that it is not an impossibility, and literally nothing is too hard for God. And I got evidence behind it, but hold on a second. Okay. She said, believing to become a kingdom financer and break poverty off my bloodline. Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. And it shall happen. I'm believing God for financial increase, not having to live paycheck to paycheck. And yes, and amen. And not only will there be just enough, but one of the things on my vision board is enough to share. Like, that's one of the things that I have on there. And sometimes it looks like we don't have enough. And one of the things that I have learned through community, through my sisterhoods, through my relationships, one of the things that I have learned is that enough to share, I got to be more specific in my language, because those of us that have that, like, those of us that are in between, or that are what I call pre-rich, okay? Those of us that are pre-rich are usually the ones that are more ready, more, depending on your heart posture, because not everybody is like that. There are a lot of pre-rich people that are like, look, I can't, and I'm sorry. But in my community, the folks that's pre-rich are some of the most generous people I have ever met in my life. They have, we have collectively back and forth dug each other out of ditches plenty of times over. Okay. And so I'm just go ahead and say that. But I believe God to have more than enough. Yes. To have more than enough to be able to give. I'm believing, I'm believing for financial freedom and a family of my own, husband, children, and being able to build legacy of wealth for my bloodline. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. He gave me a heart to give. Yes. And God gives seed to the sower. So, yes. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. I'm believing God to do the impossible in my life, whatever that looks like, and for my family to come out of complacency. You know what, girl? Oh my God. I'm believing with you. We are believing with you, Rochelle. We are believing with you, Jabrea. We are believing with you, Candace. We're believing with you, Takesha. I am believing. I'm hoping y'all believing with me. But I just want to share. So I just want to share something with y'all real quick. Okay. So one of the things that contributes to us not believing the way that we ought to is the fact that a lot of times we are believing because we receive a promise and then we have to wait. And in the in between, thank you, Takesha. I appreciate you. I appreciate you, because where 2 or 3 are gathered, there he is in the midst. If anybody touch and agree, okay? If one can put 1,000 and two can put 10,000 to flight, okay? I also believe that the power of a couple of people coming together can not only push out what is not supposed to be here, but it can draw in what is supposed to be. Amen. All right. So we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about Abram and Sarah. And we're going to talk about Abram and Sarah because when I asked the Lord about it, he was like, open your Bible. Didn't tell me where. And I opened my Bible and it came straight to Genesis 18. Huh? Jabray, you don't need to believe God for your puppy not chewing up your furniture. You need to take him to a trainer. Take him to a dog trainer. And train early, because there's a dog at my job that is 2.5 years old. Almost, she'll be 3 in December. She doesn't chew up furniture, but she got a lot of behaviors. She got a lot of behaviors that would not pass in a melanated household that was fully melanated. Okay. Train that puppy early. Train that puppy. Anyway, okay, that's part of being housebroken, by the way. Anyway, that's not the point. Stay focused. Stay focused. So Abraham talked about, so when we talk about the Lord being like, hey, hi, I got plans for you, I got dreams and visions for you, got expectations for you, I got promises for you, got declarations over your life, I got generations and wealth and. Let me give you an example. Okay. The first time that God promised Abraham a child, he was 75 years old already. Now, excuse me. He was 75 years old. We unfiltered over here, clearly. He was 75 years old, and his wife was 65. Let's keep that in mind, because a lot of times when we talk about the promise of when we talk about the promises that are made over Abraham and well, at the time, Abram and Sarai, we often talk about just Abraham's age, but we don't talk about Sarah's age. And today I'm going to talk about Sarah's age because Sarah was waiting the same amount of time as Abram. Sarai waited the same amount of time as Abram. The first time that they received this word, Genesis chapter 15, 75 years old and 65 years old. They're 10 years apart. They're 10 years apart. Abram was 75, Sarai was 65. The next time that this word was confirmed, well, let me draw back just a little bit. By the time they're 86 and 76, it's 11 years later. They've been trying. There's been no baby. 11 more years. After they were already elderly, they tried and waited for 11 more years. During the 11th year, well, I should say they waited 10 more years, and then Sarai got impatient and was like, maybe God wants it to happen another way. I don't know. I don't know. Ishmael's born in year 11. And for those of y'all that are new, I'm going to walk this story real quick, okay? In chapter 15, and I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's multiple chapters long. This series of events happens from chapter 15 until chapter 21 in the book of Genesis. So if you want to see detail for detail, the backstory, and in between the final time that it was promised and the actual fruition of the promise, there was destruction of 2 whole cities. Okay, so which are still uninhabitable to this day, thousands of years later. Catch it. Okay, so in chapter 15, the Lord says to him, don't be afraid. And this is in verse 1. It says, do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your exceeding great reward. And Abram says, Lord God, what will you give me, seeing as I have gone childless? And the heir of my household is Eliezer of Damascus. In essence, I don't have any children, and the only man that was born in my house, but not born of me, is somebody like that's the only heir I have. And Abram said, look, you have given me no offspring. Indeed, one born in my house is my heir. So Eliezer is born in his house, but he don't belong to Abram. He's not his son. He did not come from Abram at all. And the Lord said to him, this one shall not be your heir, but one who will come from your own body shall be your heir. Then the Lord brought him outside and told him, look now toward heaven and count the stars, if you are able to number them. And he said to him, so shall your descendants be. Like, Abram is getting that word when he's 75 years old. I just want to be very, very clear about this, because sometimes we receive a promise when literally everything that would possibly be a factor is like all of the contributing factors to the scenario are the things that make it impossible or make it unbelievable, I should say. Let me be mindful of my language. His initial promise was when he was 75. Look me in my eyeballs. 75 years old. He was 75 years old. Okay. Abram had already been walking with the Lord. Like, God walked him out of his people, like, get out from among your people, among your father's household. Get out of this land. Go to a place that I will show you when you leave here, but I'm not going to tell you where you're going until you get up and go. Abram already been walking with the Lord. He comes from a land where they don't serve the God, the true and living God. Hey, Ariana. Abram did not come from a place where, everybody already knew who the sovereign God is, who the creator of all was. They had multiple gods. They had idols. They had, they had their own traditions and all this. Abram was already walking with the Lord. And then he got his initial promise at 75 years old. The Lord goes on to promise him, he tells him, bring me what is it? Bring me a 3-year-old heifer, bring me a 3-year-old female goat, bring me a 3-year-old ram, bring me a turtle dove, bring me a young a young pigeon. Split them down the middle, lay them across from each other. And Abraham does that. And the Lord is like, just so we're clear, as evidence that not only am I going to give you generations and generations from your own body, as in you are going to have offspring and they are going to be more than the number of the stars, I'm also going to give you this land to inhabit. Like, this is the land that you're going to have. And Abram's like, well, how do I know you're going to give it to me? And the Lord is like, bring me these animals, split them down the middle, except for the birds, and lay them across from each other. Create a path, lay them across from each other. And all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, let me be mindful. Abram goes, he does what the Lord tells him to do. He's there long enough that the vultures are now flying overhead and trying to come and pick at the meat that has been, at the animals that have been sacrificed. And shortly after that, like, Abram shoos them away. Shortly after that, he falls asleep. And the word says that, what does it say? How does it say it? It says a darkness. In verse 12, now when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and behold, horror and great darkness fell upon him. And then the Lord said to Abram, know certainly that your descendants will be strangers in another land. He prophesies their captivity in Egypt, their enslavement in Egypt. He prophesies that they will then be delivered out of Egypt, and they will leave with great riches. And here is the evidence that you will have this land. And then you shall go to your father's place, and you will be buried at a good old age, is what the word says. Okay. And then it says that, like, you can expect these things to happen. You can expect them. You can anticipate these things happening. He says, to your descendants, I have given this land from the river of Egypt to the great river, the river Euphrates, the Kenites, the Kenizzites, and the Cadmonites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Rephaim, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. Then it goes into chapter 16. And that is where we reach. Now they are 85 and 75, and the promise still hasn't happened. It's been 10 years since the Lord prophesied, and the Lord, and even in the splitting of the animals, the Lord is the one that walks through the middle. Tradition would have it that whoever is keeping the covenant would walk through the middle of these split animals, and that would be the sign that they are committed to keeping the covenant. But Abraham does not pass through those animals. God walks through those animals, because he knows that in our fallibility, we cannot be the ones it's not that we don't want to keep the covenant, but in our fallibility, in our sinful nature, in our lack of patience, in our lack of understanding, our finite understanding, our very limited scope of understanding, we would step outside of that, and the covenant would be broken. The promises would be broken. What would have happened if Abraham would have been the one to be like, no, God, like, I promise I'm going to be the one that has all these sons, and I'm going to populate the earth, and I'm going to, and then 11 years later, Ishmael's born, and imagine the covenant being broken. No, the Lord was like, the same way, if I break this covenant with you, I would have to be also breaking my covenant with the sun and the moon, with night and day. When God, yes, when he could find no one else to swear by, he made the vow on himself. Yes, when he could not swear, like, people be like, oh, on God, la, da, 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 they will swear by whatever to be like, to proof of believability. But God was like, I know you're going to try your best, but I cannot rely on you trying your best to make sure that my plan goes forth. Okay. So I will pass through it myself. I will swear by myself. I will swear by my own name. I will make this promise on my own, for my own name's sake. I will make this vow, and I will be the one that keeps the covenant. Because here we go, 75 years old, 65 years old, 11 years after 86 years old and 76 years old, 11 years after the initial promise, Ishmael is born. Because Sarai is like, look, it's been 10 years and the Lord has not given me a child yet. Maybe I should let me just give you my maidservant. And that's one of the things that we don't really talk about it in church, but that's really they was participating in some trafficking behavior. Hagar was a slave. She was a servant. She had no room to object, and thus it was non-consensual. Okay, it was non-consensual. And then when she did not, like, after some time of Abraham being like, okay, cool, fine, I'll take her to be my wife, I'll sleep with her, however many times it took, Hagar gets pregnant. Hagar's like, I hate you, Sarah. Like, I hate you. And it starts, like, this is her life, right? Like, this is Hagar's life that we're talking about. This is Hagar's womb. This is Hagar being traded in true, it's giving Handmaid's Tale behavior. You know what I'm saying? And she bears a son, and Abraham's like, yeah, okay, this is, he came from my own body, so this got to be the heir, right? Wrong. Okay. Wrong. Because 13 years later, excuse me. And to clarify, when Ishmael is born, that's in Genesis, like the second time that is promised is in Genesis 17. Ishmael is born at 86 years old, when Abraham is 86 and when Sarai is 76. The third time it is promised is in Genesis 18. Okay? Genesis 18. And the angel of the Lord comes and is like, this time next year, Abraham is 99 years old. Sarai is 89 years old when the third promise comes. Can you imagine being 99 years old? 99 years old, and like he is 99, she's 89. Being 89 years old, and the Lord being like, okay, this time next year, you're going to have a baby in your arms that you birthed. And she laughs. I mean, reasonably so, right? Reasonably so. Some of us have done far worse than laugh in God's face. Okay. Sarai laughs. She's like, internally, silently. She does not laugh out loud. She laughs internally. She says, it says in verse 12, 18 and 12, therefore Sarah laughed within herself, saying, after I have grown old, shall I have pleasure? My Lord being old also? Dude, like, how we finna get down at 89 and 99 years old? Am I supposed to still be, are we supposed to be getting it in? Like, how? When we're at the end of our lives, essentially. Okay? And the Lord is like, oh, why did Sarah laugh? She's like, oh, I didn't laugh. And he's like, you did. I heard you. You did. You laughed. And then there is destruction of 2 separate cities and a laying out of the descendants of Lot. And we're not getting into that because that is not. Well, I guess we could, but we're running out of time. Okay, I only got 15 minutes, and I'm not trying to deviate. Okay, but essentially, his daughters also were supposed to be believing for an unbelief for something that was unbelievable and did not. And you can read that perversion for yourself in chapter 19, in Genesis chapter 19. In chapter 21, though, Isaac is born. Okay, Isaac is born. They waited. They were already old when they got the promise. They waited 25 years. They waited 25 years from the very first time that a son was prophesied to the promised son being born. 25 years. And after he was born, Sarai only lived, she was 127, so she only lived 37. Yeah, she was 90. So she lived 37 years after that, and then she died. She gave birth to Isaac, and then she died when he was 37. Like, we don't take into account the level of power that God has. Other people that wait, like we're talking about, like Abram and Sarai waited for a child. They were looking for. It says it looked impossible for them. It looked impossible for us. The idea of salvation looked impossible for us. And we're Gentiles, like most of us Gentiles. Maybe a Jew gonna come across this live, because again, this video can reach billions of people on this planet. But the salvation that was planned in the Bible initially was planned with like the Israelites first. Like Jewish people were supposed to be the ones to receive the Messiah and accept him. But because the Lord knew that they would not, he was like, look, I'm not going to withhold salvation from those that would love me. I'm not gonna withhold salvation and cause destruction. I'm a just God. I am a just God. And if y'all won't believe, I will have my believers. I will have my children. I will have my children, and I will send salvation for them. And so, like, the idea of us being saved is to some an unbelievability. Like, to say now I want to clarify that, like, there is a difference between something being unbelievable and something being impossible. We often use those interchangeably. But when something is unbelievable, it's like, well, that is unbelievable to you. But y'all see that video probably, like, I don't know, a year or two ago, but it was like the girl would interrupt the woman that was speaking, was just like, to you, over and over. So whenever I think of something that is unbelievable, help me, Holy Ghost. Thank you, Lord. We're not talking about taking away from the credibility of the thing that can happen. It doesn't mean that it is lacking in credibility. It means that we are lacking in understanding. So if we're saying, I believe God for the unbelievable, we have to do it with the understanding that we are not snatching away the credibility of what God says is possible and is going to happen based off of our limited understanding. We're not snatching away God's credibility and saying, oh, I understand more than you do, because you don't. There are things, like, there are places that the Lord takes us even in our dreams. And I've talked about this before, right? There is no such thing as a nothing dream. Okay? But there are things that God shows us in dreams where we are literally, like, in the book of Proverbs, It talks about how my body lays down to sleep and then my spirit wakes up and goes. Like my spirit walks the earth, or walks the it walks through the spiritual realm. Yeah. So your dreams are not nothing. Sometimes they are very soulish because you have some intense stuff happening, or maybe you're watching something too frequently and so it seeps into your dreams, right? Or you feel deeply about something, and so that circumstance that you are feeling in your mind, your will, your emotions, which is your soul, seeps into your dreams. But we traverse into what would seem unbelievable every time we go to sleep. And if you're not dreaming, then you need to clean up your sleep hygiene and your spiritual hygiene. So we could talk about that another time. But when we talk about the difference between something being unbelievable and choosing not to believe, very different outcomes. Something being like, oh, if God makes a promise to us, and it's very like he did with Abram and Sarai, even if we struggle to believe it, but we're like, God, you said, and I don't understand, and it don't make sense, and it's okay to wrestle with God in that way. It's another thing entirely to do what Lot's son-in-laws did when they got the news, like, you need to get out of here before destruction destroys everything, before fire rains down and destroys everything, and they did not believe, and therefore they were left behind and were destroyed with the city and everybody else. They were like, no, that's not, thank you for the, all right, go home now. We'll see you in the morning, Dad. All right. And just being like, no, that's not, he's probably just tired. Maybe he's just stressed. Not so. There's a difference. And so the question, first of all, the declaration that the Lord made was like, I don't make promises when it looks possible, when it looks like it's a believable thing. Like it's, oh yeah, that's absolutely something that I can put my hands on. The Lord look at you and tell you from a family that came from a place of poverty that you are going to be a millionaire in that family. You're going to look at it and be like your initial response in your flesh is going to be, how is that even possible? Like, how could that be? Like Abram, right? How could that be, seeing as though you have not given me any children? How could that be, seeing as though how I have never seen more than $50 in my bank account at any given time? How can that be, given that I've only ever seen my check show up and disappear in the same day? Like, how can that be? It's not that I'm saying you can't do it, but how can it be, God? And that is a back and forth that is welcome in the kingdom. That is a back and forth that the Lord does not get fearful of. He's not afraid of your questions. We say that all the time. God is not afraid of your questions. He's not afraid to wrestle with you. He will put your hip out of place. Shout out to him wrestling with Jacob, who would be then transformed. His name would be changed from Jacob to Israel. Like, he's not afraid to answer your questions. He's not afraid. Like, there is value in the wrestling with God over what you consider unbelievable based off of your own patterns, your own history, your own understanding, your own belief systems, your own structures, and what you can actually put your hands on. We're having, like, that is fine. God don't have no problems with that. There's no issue here. The issue comes in, and the question that he asked was like, what filters are over your ears, your eyes, your heart that make the individual promises over you go from unbelievable to impossible? What are you filtering the promises of God through? What are you filtering the promises through? Like, what in you? Like, what is the filter that you are filtering the promises through that strains them from being something that's just, oh wow, that's unbelievable? When somebody says something happened in the news and be like, that is unbelievable, does it take away from the fact that it happened? No. Something can be unbelievable and completely factual. But what is, like, this is the worthy work. What are you filtering the promises of God through? What are you, like, the things that you know that you desire? Like, I was at the store yesterday, and for the first time in my life, I'm being very unfiltered, and I don't like it, but I'm gonna share it. For the first time in my life, I was walking through Walmart because I was there for one thing, and then I was like, well, I'm here, so I might as well pick up the things that I actually need. Um, and I'm walking through the store, ended up, I had too much caffeine in my system, so I definitely stayed longer than I anticipated. But I was walking through Walmart, and I passed by the children's section, and then I passed by the baby section, and I just felt my spirit rise up in me, and just was like, I just started, like, praying over my children, like, kind of just like externally, I just look like I'm like glancing over, and, like, looking at different dresses and outfits, and things like that. And I just found but internally, I was praying over my children who are not born yet, praying over my babies who have not birthed yet, which then led me to praying over whoever their father is, whoever it is that I'm going to marry one day. I literally was in Walmart believing God for what looks like something that is unbelievable. And I refuse to mince the words between unbelievable and impossible for the reason that I stated, for the reason that God asked the question that he asked. We're not going to mince words. Just because something seems unbelievable, it does not make it an impossibility, and it doesn't even mean that it's really hard to believe. It's just something we've never experienced before. So, like, me standing in the store and praying those prayers and declaring over my children, like, you are so loved. Like, y'all are so, like, even just like speaking, like, even just praying over them and being like, Lord, anoint their mouths to be vessels for your word, anoint their hands, let them work for you, let them be anointed to hear your voice and to know you from the depths of themselves. Like, let them know you deep on the inside of themselves. Let them speak your word, let them read your word, let them be devoted to you in their heart and their mind and their soul, and then being like, y'all are so loved, but just as much as you are loved already, and you're not even formed. And I've prayed over my womb before. I've prayed over, like, I've, like, I've prayed some prayers. Okay. I've prayed some prayers, but I've also declared some things. And I'm not doing that because, I'm just kind of hoping that you remember me, God. Like, and God remembered Hannah, and God remembered Sarah, and God remembered, he even sent for Isaac's wife. He sent angels before the servant to orchestrate their meeting. The servant was like, what you mean go to this other country and find a girl that happens to come from your family, and bring her back here to another country to marry your son who she's never met, and who is the son of an uncle, a son of an uncle that she's never met. Like, what do you mean? His first thing was like, okay, but what if she doesn't come back with me? It wasn't an impossibility. The servant, who may very well not have known God for himself, still knew to pray when he arrived in the city, when he took the oath, went into the city, went into this completely different country, and was like, okay, God, show favor to me, and show even more favor to your servant, my master. orchestrate this meetup. If this is the one, make her say this. And that's exactly how it went down. Even though he knew that, like, if she decided not to go back with him, then he'd be released from his vow and there would be no harm to him. Not low stakes, but, you know? And so when you are taking the things that you desire, the things that we've listed above that we are believing for, whether it is financial increase or marriages, or whether it is generational wealth building, or whether it is becoming a kingdom financer, whether it is becoming one that breaks that breaks the generational curses, the one that tears down complacency out of their bloodlines. When we're talking about being the ones that put people through college and are not the ones that are necessarily looking for jobs, but like creating jobs. Like when we're talking about believing God for the unbelievable, we're talking about deliverance for our families, and everything around us is telling us that it's unbelievable. That has nothing to do with the possibility of it. It can be unbelievable and still be fully factual. The atom bomb was unbelievable. The hydrogen bomb was unbelievable. The fission bomb was also unbelievable. Going to the moon was unbelievable. Driving a vehicle was unbelievable. A vehicle was unbelievable. An airplane existing was unbelievable. Like, it really don't. It really don't. She says, sheesh. Even telling ourselves that something is unbelievable has nothing to do with God. It has nothing to do with God. It has nothing to do with God. It has nothing to do with the facts. It has nothing to do with anything. We say that things are unbelievable in the news all the time. We also say that things are impossible. There are people that believe, but at the same time that we're saying that things are impossible, there are like, I'm not going to get on my soapbox because that is not what this platform is for. But people are only just now talking about AirPods being able to, like, that they're like technology and AirPods and other technology, because not just AirPods, but and other technology being able to read your brain waves and advertise to you accordingly. There was a lawsuit about that 10 years ago that nobody talked about. You know? And there's so many things. There's so many things. I low-key love the believer soapbox. You know? And I be on them. But I'm over time, and so I'm not gonna get on there. I'm gonna just step down. Just step down. But hear me with your heart and your mind. Like, go beyond your mind. Go beyond your level of understanding. Go beyond what you deem possible. Okay. Hear me with your heart. Close your eyes and hear me with your soul. With your spirit. Excuse me. Because your soul is your mind, your will, and your emotions. Your mind, your will, and your emotions are still very limited. They don't know a whole lot about everything. They sometimes don't know a whole lot about anything. We form opinions about limited information all the time. You know what I'm saying? But if we can believe God for the unbelievable, envision your life. And some of y'all have been a part of CNCA coaching, and part of that is, and it's also part of our the closer of our retreat. Our closing activity is vision casting, and not in a way that's like this, like frou unclear way. No, with marked goals for the unbound dreams that you have for your life. If they're not held hostage, if the promises are not held hostage by what we understand, what we've seen before, what patterns we can find, if that is not the way that it's being measured, right? If we take all of that stuff away and we're just like, if there were no boundaries, if there were no barriers, what would you want your life to look like at the end of your life? And start setting time-bound, realistic goals to attain those things and being like, backtrack that thing. X amount of years, X amount of years, X amount of years, X amount of months, X amount of weeks. Why is it impossible? If I'm going to stand on a soapbox, it's going to be to stop using the word impossible interchangeably with the word unbelievable. You don't have to believe it. God is real. You don't have to believe it. It's a fact. It would be good for you to believe it. It would be beneficial in the eternal, in the temporal and eternal realm for you to believe it. But it's not necessary. It doesn't take away the factual evidence. It doesn't take away from the fact that this book, it doesn't take away from the fact that this book is founded on tens of thousands of historically verified documents. It is the most verifiable ancient text on the planet. You don't have to believe it. The evidence is there. There have been, over 30,000 archaeological digs that prove the things that happen in this Bible, including but not limited to Genesis 19 and the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. The foundation blocks for the Tower of Babel are still in existence right now. You can see them. They're above ground. You can see them. And that's with them being, partially covered over thousands of years since it happened. But you can still see the foundation. Like, you can see the squared off foundation. You can see the archaeological digs for the sulfur that came down from the sky. You can see the kind of destruction by fire that happened. You can see that the Ark of Noah landed on the top of Mount Ararat, which is still in existence today. You can Google Mount Ararat, and you will find that it is visible today. All of these things are it's the same thing with the promises of your life. That is the soapbox I'm gonna get on and get off of. Okay. If I'm gonna get on a soapbox today, that's the one I'm getting onto. And now I'm gonna, but I digress. Stop describing the things that God has promised you, and the things, there are desires that are inside of us, and I need to get off of here because I am beyond my time. But there are things that we desire that we desire them because they are the desires that God placed inside of us, because it would be so easy for me to just, find any person and have a baby with just anybody. That ain't the problem. The problem. That's my reminder. I got a really good deal on some shoes, so I gotta go and get them. Shout out to Facebook Marketplace. But there are things that we desire, like the qualifications and the specific parameters. We don't desire those specific parameters. You don't desire salvation for your children and your grandchild because it's just a desire that you came up with. That is a desire that's been placed in you by God, which means it is something that can only be accomplished by the Lord doing what the Lord does, right? Breaking financial strongholds is when you've never seen it before, and you're building it from scratch, is not a desire that like most people have. It's easy for us to be like, well, we just let life happen to us, and if we come across some money, then maybe we'll buy something nice because it might not be here next week. Like, that's not the life that we're choosing. So that is that on that. I'm gonna end it right there. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank you for pulling up. Hop in my DMs if you want to talk more about this. Our DMs are always open. And if you are in here, like, identify why you filter the things that you believe, that you are trying to believe for, through a filter that causes it to go from being just go from being this place where it's like, okay, it's heady, I can ask God questions, that takes it from being oh wow, that's unbelievable, but wow, that's so great, to an impossibility. Like, why does it make that transition? What is it in you that you are filtering your stuff through? And when it comes down to it, when you have the conversations with God, if it takes you having to declare randomly throughout the day, like, I believe God for the unbelievable. When it looks impossible, I believe God for the unbelievable. 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 However you like, I don't care if you guys say it till you start speaking in tongues. I don't know. Whatever you gotta do. If you gotta lay your bills out on the table, Dr. Gibson and I have done that plenty. When we first moved into this house, we put all the bills on the table on Thanksgiving, 2 days after we moved in, I think. And was like, here's all the bills. Here's what we need. Here's what we expecting for. Here's what we need in order to maintain this house. When the bills got crazy and we're like, we laying these bills on the table, I believe God for the unbelievable. We are here. It got really impossible so many times, or seemingly impossible so many times. And God was like, bring that back to being unbelievable. And then bring it to being believable. So thank y'all for rocking with me. Thank you for pulling up on this Saturday morning. Thank you for doing the worthy work. And for those of you that are just coming across this live now, I'm going to read off the worthy work for you just so that you can see it. It really is. It is good, TK. And I don't really want to walk away from it, but I want to be in obedience. So I'm going to do that. But I want to read off the worthy work to those that are not already in our private group. And if you're not in our private group, like, why? The women gather there. We get together in person and online together. Okay. So, like, why? Join the community. But I do want to read off to you. Our worthy work for this week. Because you deserve to know. And so you can start filtering your stuff. Okay, here we go. We are here. Worthy work. What are the things that you desire / that God has promised you? Okay. Do you believe that they are possible, attainable, reasonable? Yes or no? What does God say about them? This is going to take prayer and reading your Bible, because you cannot know what God has promised you if you don't know what he said. This is how you find out what he said. Okay? What is the story stopping you from believing him? What is that filter that transitions it from being, this is believable, to unbelievable, and I can wrestle between the two until I get from here to here? But what is the filter that takes it from all of the good things and the reasonable parts of it to being an impossibility? What is that? then replace it with why it is possible, and even better, why it is probable. Because there's a difference between possible and probable as well. All right, that's it. Yes. Okay. So thank y'all. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. I love you so, so much. We will be back with you on Monday with another affirmation. And I hope that you have an amazing weekend. I hope that you get your good rest. Those of you that are working, that you would not work yourself too hard, that you would remember to believe God for the unbelievable. If you have things that you are believing Him for that you did not share here, that's okay. Make sure you write it down somewhere where you can see it so you don't forget that that's what you're believing for. So when it happens, you can talk about it. You can tell the story. All right. So, TK said, yes, I do that too. Some bills are strictly digital for me, so I declare any bill, note, or debt on with my name on it. Exactly. Look, the phone was on the table with the bills as well. So all the digital bank accounts and money sharing apps. Everybody, everything. All right. I love y'all so much. Have an amazing day. We are all getting free together. Okay. If I'm getting free, I'm taking everybody with me. So I will see you next time. And next week, I will see you in the comments. Bye.